good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are in the world. It's Alan Berry from the Alan Berry Labucan from the Alan Berry Reports. And I've got a second time guest here just in the last 2 weeks. They have really been finding some great stuff with the drilling. As you know, I like to call it the truth machine. And last week we spoke with Michel David, who's the CEO of the company, and he gave us a really good rundown of the project. And then just yesterday, the company put out a new batch of drill results, and that's what I wanted to get Michel on today to talk about. Michel David, thank you very much for joining us today.
Good, my pleasure.
Good. I see you got a nice map in the back of you there of Nevada.
Yeah, I got a couple of maps in Nevada. This is my little war room, so this is where we figure things out. So
excellent. Well, I'm coming to you live from Mexico, as you can see from my flag there, Michel. Right. I'm an expatriate, I guess. I'm no longer in Canada, so I'm right down here, and I've got my own little war room.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It's a lot warmer where you are, for sure.
It is, as you can notice. It's t-shirt weather.
Yeah, not us. Not here.
Okay, so Michel, we had some more news releases out yesterday, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on a screen share here, and I'm going to bring on your news release, so when people were talking, they can see what I'm talking about. So I'm looking at the website here. There was two things that stood out to me on this on the drilling. If you could tell me your read of it. One was that I saw you drilled 1.5 meters of 34 grams, and then you went into the old mine workings. To me, that sounds like you could, if the mine workings weren't there, that would be a continuation of the mineralization. That was one thing. And then on the other holes, you had some really nice grades as well. And I wanted to talk about that. So let's get into those two holes. And then I want to also, seeing how you put this nice map together with the zones, I wanted to talk about how those drill results relate to the various old adits and everything. So let's get started. Why don't we start with that first hole I mentioned, where you'd hit the 1.5 meters of 93 grams.
Yeah.
And then into the old mine workings.
Yeah. What was interesting on that hole is we always suspect or always believe that they're mined high grade. Now, of course, there's nothing left there. It's a big hole, so we don't really know. But we sort of hoped they were mining. They weren't mining bad rock. So we wouldn't even know that this was sort of a new spot. We hadn't seen that they put a tunnel in. There's some stuff we don't know about, obviously. But the fact that we ran into 93 grams just before entering the old workings was obviously very significant, because it means, well, yeah, if there's nothing there, well, we can postulate that maybe they mined some higher grade material. We don't know what the grades were, but it's really interesting to map out, because it gives us the directions of the veins.
Well, to me, Michel, it points out that the question in these old mine operations that are now being drilled modern equipment, it indicates a pretty good idea that they didn't get everything.
They didn't not only not get everything, but they didn't mine much. For in today's world, what they took out is insignificant. But for me as a geologist, to understand what the directions they went in, this is our evidence. And it sort of gives me a lot of confidence when I see that. When I do run into an old tunnel, like I said, it's not a very significant thing for our means, but it gives me a lot of significance in the fact that it shows me the directions I need to be able to plot the drilling and where we're going. It's really, really good. You can always say, well, if it wouldn't have been the old workings, would you have had a more wider intersection? Well, yeah, I hope so. That's what it sort of means. They didn't have a hole there for nothing. One guy asked me as well, how do I know I ran into an old tunnel? Well, from the drilling, RC drilling, when you run into a void. It's not really a void. It's a bunch of rubble. We pick up pieces of wood of the support. You're 100 feet down in bedrock and you're entering wood. So that's there. And also we're able to push through it with the rig. We have no return. So we have no samples from that area where the old tunnel was full of collapsed rock and things. But we have to shut off the water flow and shut off the return, be able to get through that and get into the bedrock after. But it's very, very significant hole. And also what I always like to point out as well is that I've been as excited about the lower grade at the start of the hole. It's only a gram, but what it tells me, as I've been saying for a long time, that what this is, these are high grade zones in an envelope of lower grade material. So there's no dilution here. You have this zone, and then ring it around, you've got gold around it, which is very, very significant and interesting. We call that our low grade, and mines are built with that kind of stuff. So it's not a bad start.
These days, Michel, the Great Bear situation up in Red Lake is coming into my mind a lot when I write about you, because I can see that both you and them have multi-million ounce kind of potential. Of course, there's a lot more drilling that goes into.
We've got a long way to go, but
Yeah.
it's a really, really interesting project from the point of view, as I mentioned to you last week, of that this is the Nevada style projects. 5 million ounce mines aren't rare in Nevada, so if you're in that range, you're looking for elephants. Well, you're an elephant country, as I said last week.
And that's and you came up with that number. That's the number I've been rolling around in my head between Great Bear and Walker River. But what I think is significant is that those lenses in Red Lake, they tend to be fairly narrow, sometimes under a meter. And when you're talking about bonanza grades where, that extra meter, meter and a half, 2 meters means a lot. And that's what you're seeing in this drilling.
Yeah, I always repeat, I try and tell people, for me, what's more interesting for me are grades very, very important. And number one, obviously no grade, no nothing. But what's really important as well, along with it, is width. Mining width. Well, I can't tell about mining, obviously, but width of your intersections is what's really, really key for later on, because width makes for not necessarily as much drilling for the same result type thing. And if ever you go into mining, well, the wider it is, the better it is, and the more profit you make, which is the bottom line here. So width is very, very important, and that's what's really, really exciting about this project to me.
Okay, so that's a perfect segue into the next hole, which is I'll get it up on the screen here. Now there was a few things that I had to look a couple times just to make sure that I got it right in my mind. It looks like instead of, I think you should have added some and to your news release, because you've got this low grade envelope of 33 meters.
Yeah.
But then you go into a new zone from 33 to 53. I think that should say and there. And that's 19.9 meters of 10 grams.
Yeah.
So now you're nothing wrong with 10 grams in a.
No, I'll take that any day. That's great stuff. That's great stuff.
But then you get a third zone.
Yeah.
From 57 to 60 meters of 3 meters of 111 grams. And included in that is the highlight hole of 1.5 meters of 221 grams. So did I read that right? You actually went through 3 different zones.
Yeah, essentially the whole thing can be looked at as a big package. You look at this, you could take it all, you have a real good grade. But if you go from surface at 0, you've got a very distinct, this is why I presented it this way. You've got a very distinct lower grade envelope that starts. You start right off in this lower grade material, then you pop it at 53, and you stay in this higher grade material for 20 meters. Then you pop out, and the reason we don't continue with grades is that we run into a different rock type, so we can't jump them together. So this is why they're sort of separated. But it is like, I would call the 0 to, that's like one lower grade zone and one high grade zone, followed by a little blank zone of a different rock type. It's not that the rock don't run, we have a little intrusion there, a little granite came in after. And then you run back into another high grade zone. It's a fun for me. I love this. This is the kind of hole you only drill a few times in your life if you're lucky. So I'm really, really pleased with that hole. That's a real great hole for me. I love that one. And when we saw it on the field when I drilled it, you could sort of tell when we were talking to geologists, the other geologists with me were talking about it. We could see it. We were excited just looking at it. It really looked intense, and the intensity is what tells us what kind of grade we're getting there. So it's really exciting.
So you're not just seeing good grades, you're seeing stuff that you'll be looking for in future holes.
Yeah, well, it gives us, again, these two holes that we've announced that we received, this gives us the directions. Again, it's just a matter of evidence. And these things move around a little bit. They're not always where you think they are. You drill, you put your rig, I don't know, whatever away, and you think it's there. Whoop, it's not there. It's moved 50 feet. So 50 feet in this type of drilling is a lot. So you have to be careful. So every time we get a little evidence of where it's going, well, it's really, really good. So we even know where this thing starts, because right at surface we're in some mineralization. So the whole width of the zone is more interesting now. And we always like to drill it at close. We're lucky because we're able to drill this at close to true width because of our the way the roads, our access is. We actually cross over the zone, so we're always sort of drilling across it and not in it. So it's great fun. It makes it easier drilling. And we're getting a handle on the geology, obviously.
Well, you're making this really easy for an interviewer because you keep on bringing up the next subject at the end of when you talk there, Michel. So the next one for me is this map that you have of the zones. And I think your Google Earth image of this area has been getting used a little bit because I see it getting passed around, and it's not difficult to find this on the map. Google Earth, you can see these roads that go up there. At the edge of your projected zone of alteration, this central zone, this here is the C adit, here's the B adit, here's the A adit, here's the road from down below. So these are some markers that I think people can start to visualize where you are and things here. So why don't you tell us where, in relation to those adits, are the drill holes you just announced?
Well, that's quite a big scale there. So we'll get the scale right off the bat. You're talking from the bottom of where it says central zone, which is sort of the bottom of the canyon. From there to the top, you're talking almost 3,000 feet. So we understand scale. So where we've been essentially drilling is we've been drilling these two holes are, I tell you, where it says current area of exploration, it would be the word current. We're in that area right now.
Oh.
So we're in that area right now. Yeah,
that's where I've got my pointer at the top of the road, sort of.
Yeah, we're on top of where what they call the sea level was, the sea adit. And we're above that. So when we crossed into it, we were about because elevation here is very important. Remember, when you go from central zone and you go up, you're actually going up. There's a 2,000 foot difference between the two, where it says central zone and the top of your.
Yeah, because this is the side of a mountain, folks.
Yeah, this is the side of a mountain. That's why the road is like that. Those are switchbacks going up. So essentially, we were. This is why we intersected one of the tunnels. Is that we were about 150 feet above their workings, essentially. So
people can see that actual road that goes to just about 100 or so meters above Adit Sea.
A little less, let's say about 60 meters or so, somewhere in there, a little less than that. I'm not quite
Okay,
sure.
so these two holes were drilled from there down
Yeah,
toward.
they drilled. They're above the sea adit, and what they're doing is they're not just above. They're not directly above the sea adit. They're above an elevation, and they're maybe 600 feet away from the.
Phone ringing on you there.
Yeah, hold on. Just if you just hold for a second.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got the screen now, folks, and you can see me where I'm pointing towards the, this road I'm pointing at is where they drilled, and they were drilling down towards this adit sea.
Yeah, sorry about that interruption, but the important part of this is one must remember it's the elevation that's important, because what gives us the key to this thing is that we're lucky we're drilling on the side of a mountain, so we can actually see the rock and go up the mountain. It helps our geology a lot to do it that way.
Now, another question this brings up for me is, so was some of that going in towards the mountain?
Yeah, the way they did this in those days, they had no ability to shaft, or they didn't have equipment to hoist or anything like that. So what they would do, they would actually use gravity. They just dig a tunnel into the side of a hill or a mountain in our case, and then they drill another one below it, and they just blast the rock in the middle and let it drop down. Then they'd haul it, then they'd throw it down the side of the mountain. Actually, they had a really system of they was just use gravity and just throw the stuff down the side of the mountain. They had a series of sort of metal and wood ramps where you would throw the material down to what their little mill was in those days, or stamp mill. So that's how they find it. They use the mill.
Imagine their recovery rate wasn't that great.
Well, actually, it wasn't that bad because it's a lot of free gold, so they're using gravity a lot. Actually, no, they surprisingly enough, sure, it's not today, but their recovery rate would have been fairly high because the gold is.
How did they catch the free gold in the various?
Well, you just crush the rock and then you use water, just like use a gravity table.
So they were crushing it up there.
Yeah, they would crush it. No, they would dump the stuff down. They would crush it at the bottom. They would crush at the bottom, but they'd crush about 200 feet below the B adit. The B adit is below the C adit, but the B adit is where they hauled material out of, and they would dump it down the hill down to A, where the A level is today, essentially.
So some of this drilling was not just to go back and try to catch the extension of the adit, but you're also going in even deeper into the mountain. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're from the point of view of the adit, we sort of know where that is. We have an understanding. We're going to run into it, and we ran into it on 30 because we didn't think there was more tunneling. So it makes it a little more interesting because they did, this thing extends more than we thought. But we're using the tunnel as sort of a guide. It's our initial guide, but we're not actually essentially drilling extensions of the old stuff. We're drilling new stuff. We're using
Is that what that thick intersection was, more towards the new stuff?
Yeah, the best, the 28 was essentially below the old workings, and I would say 500 feet to the north, to the east. Hard to describe, but it's about 500 feet away from the old workings, essentially. So it's just an extension of the zone.
So you're going to be probably getting some cross section maps, so it makes it easier for people to see where.
Yeah, we're working. Yeah, we're working on that right now. We're a little behind on that. Obviously, we're playing catch-up ball now because we wanted to prioritize the mountain, and before we got going with sections and maps and plans. But that's underway right now. In the next few weeks or so, we'll have some sections ready for things and maps and so on to show people, because we are getting interests from a lot of sources, mining analysts, and so they need to see this stuff. So that's underway.
Good. So a couple more questions before we wrap things up. You still have some more holes pending. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, we have some stuff still in the lab. I don't really like talking too much about how much we got. I don't like to create too many expectations or things like that. But
Okay.
we do have we did more holes than the four that we announced, the three we announced in November and December. So there is some more stuff hopefully to come out soon. I don't know when. Again, I reiterate the lab is controls when they issue these things.
Yep.
And then we're going to take a good look at this to plan our next program when we head up there again.
So you've got some more. Where do you see the drilling taking you now that you've learned what you have so far?
Yeah, it's going to be sort of a two-phase program. We're going to continue with our extensions. In other words, following what we've discovered so far and hopefully continues. And also we want to do a little more exploration on the other areas of the property where we know this zone that we see extends, and we have other places of mineralization. We want to do some, I hate to say wildcat drilling, but a little more exploration type of really where we don't really know, but we suspect. So that's what we're going to try. So
Well, when you're using the rocks and the drill holes and the alteration and the faulting to guide your drilling of those, what some will call wildcat holes, I don't really consider those as wildcat as some might.
No, they're a little more there's a little more geology than just say wildcat. What I mean by wildcat is essentially it's an area that's never been looked at, never been seen, never been drilled, but we suspect, or we've seen things obviously. And we're really excited about going to go punch a couple of holes in there. You just never know. And
Yeah.
if they do run, and well, it adds a whole nother dimension to this. It does open up a lot of land and a lot of positioning, because remember we've only been looking so far about, I don't know, 4 or 5% of the property so far. We've really not really looked at it yet.
To where the last activity was, but to put it into context, you've got a very big alteration zone there.
Yeah.
That you said it, 1,000 meters by what, 200 to 400 meters of width.
Yeah.
And they don't know how much that goes into the mountain.
No, we have an idea. We've seen, but we don't know if it connects yet. There's some faulting going on. There's some intrusives, but we do see the zone on our property quite a distance away from where we're drilling now, and we suspect they do line up. We don't know that yet, and that's the idea of this drilling. If we can get a rig up there and do some work on that, that's going to be an exciting geology, because that could open up a lot more. That would really be and add a whole new dimension to this thing, which is already exciting. But
I appreciate that, because I think that sometimes the market doesn't really understand what you've announced and where that might take you. And I think you're presenting the might and the ifs in a very good way. But I like your prospects of testing those mights and ifs and possibles. One final question, Michel. Some of the people have done a little bit of this, the research into your company's stock structure and the warrants. You've got 10 million warrants that are coming due at the end of April. Is that how you sort of plan to, once you get all the funds, or once you get all the assays in place, that you would hope to have a bunch of these warrants exercised to fund the exploration?
Well, yeah, that was actually one of our business models from way back when we started that business model. And luckily for us, we're very happy with it. And that's going to happen. Things are already underway. Let's just put it that way. Things are already, we're able to plan today. Right now, I'm able to plan a little more drilling. Let's put it that way. So that means.
Okay. So I don't want to pin you down, but you're in a position where you can start to get ready to do some drilling after you get all your drill holes in from your last program.
We got a couple of weeks of interpretation to do, obviously, plan. There's some infrastructure work to do. There's some work at the BLM to do. But after that, that's not a very long process. But after that, I think we'll be ready to go. As simple as that.
So maybe April-ish, something like that?
Yeah, I hate to be pinned down as you're trying to, because it all depends on actually, more depends on infrastructure and interpretation. But yeah, we're sort of looking at a target date sometime. I've always said sometimes in the late spring, when we want to get up there. That's the idea.
Okay, well, you got to. I accept my apology because I'm as eager. I'm a shareholder now, Michelle, and
Oh, that's fun.
and at the heart of everything is I'm an explorationist. I love poking holes in the ground and looking for buried treasures. So I am really enthusiastic about what you're doing, and so I hope I wasn't too pushy there.
No, actually, I like talking to you, but I'd rather be on the mountain right now. So I just can't wait to get up there too.
Do you get internet access up there by any
Oh
chance?
yeah, we're not equipped for that. That's what we're equipping ourselves in. That's part of our infrastructure now. We're gonna build an Interset access up there for be able to stay up there longer in terms of less travel time between our where we stay in Yarrington, where our little office is, and actually do some more site work because we want to stay up there. It's great fun, great
Well, you
place.
know what? We gotta figure out how to get you do a show up there so you can maybe show us some rocks or some drill core or
Yeah,
not
that'd be fun.
that gets you in trouble, but maybe we could you could give us some idea of how things are going
Yeah.
up there.
From up there, it'd be fun because actually even see the drill rig working. It's great fun. It's exciting. People don't have the image in their minds yet, but up there, it's real exciting when you see that kind of stuff going on.
Well, we'll get you. You got to get that. I'm gonna twist your arm to get a better camera, and you'll be able to give us some good pictures from up there.
Well, you're dragging me into the IT world. I wasn't ready for it, but it looks like I got to try it. So I'm
Well,
going.
they're making it pretty easy these days, Michelle. So on that note, let's close it off. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming on to tell us about the drill holes. I really like. I mean, I'm doing so much research on your company these days, Michelle, that I can visualize three-dimensionally because of my experience, what's going on. I think you came on and did a great job so more people can understand a little better about what you're doing with the drill rig.
Well, thank you. It was great, great fun.
Okay, and we'll
Good.
do it again soon when you get up in the mountain.
Okay, we'll keep you informed.
All right, Michelle. So I'm going to wrap things up, folks. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm very enthusiastic about Walker River, as you can probably tell. In my heart, I'm all about drilling for stuff and looking for treasures. And when you find something serious in Nevada, you really have to pay attention. And so I foresee that this is going to be an evolving story. I'm so glad that Michel is cooperating to come on during important times because in all of these projects, no matter what company you're looking at, the more you understand what the company is doing with the drill rig, why they're doing it, the better decisions you can make. And that's what I've always been about at Allenberry Reports. And so I'm also going to end and say, these are for information purposes only, these shows. It's important for you to speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions, and that I am a biased shareholder of Walker River, happily. And I think as we do more of these shows, you'll understand why I am a biased, happy shareholder. On that note, you have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.